I now like to Colum Eastwood to continue the case for the proposition.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight, and thank you particularly to Conleth for that very nice introduction. I take it when you were talking about the generation who's past it, you were talking about Mike, weren't you? The rest of us have still got a bit of time left in us. Look, we're living in very interesting times, and people always want to live in interesting times until times get interesting, and then they want boredom. Again, I could do with a bit of boredom right about now. But Brexit has changed everything. It has totally changed the world for us, those of us who live in Ireland. It has particularly changed the world for Northern nationalists, because the comfort blanket of the European Union has been whipped off us. It has shaken our confidence in a way that hasn't happened since the Good Friday Agreement. And I have to say, Northern nationalism is once again a restless people. But even those from a non-nationalist background don't like what Brexit is bringing, because they do like having no borders. They like open economics. They like jobs. They like progressive societies. They like environmental protection. They don't like Trumpian economics and rhetoric. They don't like this headlong rush into the economic abyss. You rarely hear anymore that Brexit will be good for the economy. You just hear the people have voted for it, so we have to do it. Lots of people in Northern Ireland, from whatever background they come, don't like what they are hearing. If they live in the west of Northern Ireland, they are even more concerned, because they already suffer extremely poor infrastructural connection. They suffer an economic inactivity rate that would make the leaders of third world countries worried. And they know that a bad Brexit, a hard border, makes all of this worse. And we remember what a hard Brexit, or what a hard border does to communities, to economies, and to people's ordinary day lives. And businesses are now finally speaking up. They didn't speak up at all before the referendum. Their voice has got louder and louder, and today they are shouting from Downing Street that we cannot continue down this line. And I hope some of our friends who aren't here tonight but are from our part of the world are listening to that very loud voice. And I think that's why many people are now reconsidering their preconceived notions about what Irish unity might mean. And it wasn't the withdrawal agreement that made all those people uncomfortable and think differently. It was the Brexit vote in itself. It was the fear, and it is the fear, of a hard Brexit. And let me just say one thing about the withdrawal agreement, because it is nationalists who are speaking up for the withdrawal agreement. Unionists, many of them, are speaking against it, which I find bizarre, because what the withdrawal agreement does, it protects the Good Friday Agreement in all of its parts. In particular, the principle of consent. That means we cannot change the constitutional position of Northern Ireland until we vote for it. So I would ask Mike and others who have influence within the unionist community to be the voice for the withdrawal agreement, which is not perfect, but it is our ultimate protection against a very, very bad Brexit. But a new and reconciled Ireland will only ever be built by fully recognising the changing society of today. For young people, the picture of their world is no longer reflected in the murals of our past. This is now an island of new minorities, and we have to build a broad coalition for change. A new changed Ireland won't be built upon the rubble of our history. It will be based on the values we invest in modern nationhood. Because the purpose of a new Ireland can't be guided by a blind obsession with historic wrongs. It should be about creating opportunities for our emerging generations. That means an all-Ireland health service free at the point of delivery, a new Ireland that seeks to reach energy independence by 2050, an Ireland where family farms can survive as part of a thriving agri-food sector, an Ireland that gives power and place to all of its rich traditions, an Ireland that ends the disgrace of homelessness and is proud to provide for the most vulnerable. An Ireland where enterprise and jobs and opportunities exist across the entire island, not just along the eastern seaboard. An Ireland capable of delivering prosperity and fairness for everyone. But we will only succeed in reaching that new Ireland if we first provide it with definition and detail. And that's where I do agree with some of the people sitting across from us. But to do this, I think we need to reconvene the New Ireland Forum, because no one party can shape a new Ireland, and all of us must have an investment in it. The New Ireland Forum is the best way to produce the blueprint and that plan. And no referendum should be called until its work is done. And that's important for people to hear, particularly people in Sinn Féin, because you can't just call for a border poll every single day. You can't call for it at 5 o'clock in the morning after the European referendum has been decided and expect that to mean you're going to win it. So when I say we're ready to begin. We're ready to start the work. We're ready to start the conversation, and politicians should hear this as well. Conversations sometimes start without you, and the conversation about a united Ireland has already started in homes and communities right across our island. But I'm all too aware that talk of a new Ireland risks sending some of our community to the hills, and I'm very sensitive to that fact. But I also know that unionism is not limited to or defined by the politics of Arlene Foster or Sammy Wilson. There are many within the unionist community, some of them are here tonight, who are willing to engage and are willing to explore new possibilities. And I always think one of the most remarkable moments in our modern politics came just before Dr. Ian Paisley finally crossed the Rubicon and embraced power sharing. Standing outside the door of Downing Street, Paisley recognised that the time to take it is when the tide is running. There is a tide in the affairs of man taken at a flood, and I think the tide is running in people's minds and hearts. Now, I don't often quote Ian Paisley, as you might imagine, but it was a moment of acknowledgement and that a changing context needs a changed political response. It was a moment of true leadership, a leadership that is badly needed now. Unionism has nothing to fear from a conversation based on persuasion and consent. Those who believe in constitutional change have a duty to tell our unionist neighbours, you belong to this place every bit as much as I do. Therefore, you have the same right to shape the future of our island. They also need to hear that while we want to shape the change ahead, we want to make Northern Ireland work now. And my appeal to unionism is this: don't avoid that future and don't stay silent on it. Try to convince us of your vision, and I'll try to convince you of ours. And then let the people decide in time. That's the way politics is supposed to work. It's how it works at its best. And those of us who believe in a new Ireland need to offer a credible and positive vision. We will not protest our way into one. Those who have framed the inflammatory narrative that unionism as a whole is unchanging, doesn't believe in rights, can't be worked with, those people need to be faced down, because that is not the basis of our vision. This is not 1968, and we are not second-class citizens anymore. I, for one, am tired of that argument. We diminish ourselves by its repetition, and we diminish the progress that previous generations have secured for us. The old truism of politics is that people will always opt to vote for something rather than against something. If we can provide a place of opportunity and belonging for our unionist neighbours, then if we can't do that, then it simply isn't worth having. I have to disagree with Brendan. I have 1 minute left. The Good Friday Agreement will endure, has to endure. The protections for minorities that we put into the Good Friday Agreement have to be there for the unionist minority after a united Ireland, and I will always hold true to that position. I'll just finish with this. 100 years ago, unionists, if they had have been asked, would have said, why leave the biggest trading bloc in the world? Yeah. Good question. They would also have felt that joining an independent United Ireland was about Rome rule. Well, the only theocracy left is north of the border, because the southern society has totally changed and has now offered us an opportunity to join together, begin the conversation, begin the work, and get it done. Thank you very much.